Monday. Today I'm not going to be playing really any Magic, but I'm going to discuss a deck I played in 2 RCQs last weekend. But I'm still building the updated version, I think, of the deck is the best way of putting it. Hope you're all having a good Monday. Alright, there's those. What else was in my deck? Preordain. Swift Spear is the last card. Swift Spear is the last card, which is also in Standard. It's kind of funny that a large portion of this deck is indeed Standard legal, but you know, it is what it is. Obviously, the more high-powered level cards are not legal in Standard as well, but right. So I think the way I want to do this is these. We got this. Got these. Got these. Got these. We got these. And we have one more slot. I think it should probably be a Meltdown, even though I didn't play one. But I think it should be a Meltdown. Because I do think the Shadow Spear construct thing is like a very easy way for you to lose. So, to put it in full detail, I played 2 RCQs with this deck. I made the finals of the first one, and it was a 2 slaughter, so that was good enough. The second one, I went 4-2, and it was actually a 7-rounder, but my round 7 opponent and I didn't really want to play for like no reason, so like they technically conceded to me, and I technically got 12th, but really it was a do not finish matchup. Here are my matchups. I played against Dimir Frog, Jeskai Energy with main deck consign. I got scammed out by a Flage. So like this match was kind of funny because match 2, game 1 of this RCQ. On turn 4, my opponent exerts Arena of Glory, plays Flage, like from hand, and has this like a blue source up. I'm like, oh no, and then I get consigned. The sacrifice trigger gets consigned, and I basically just get killed right there. I think in general, Flage is a huge problem for this deck, and probably the biggest problem. And I'm not sure it's really very fixable. If you expect tons of Boros in your area, you may just not want to play this deck. However, I think the area that I am in actually has a lot of Psychic Frog and Amulet Titan. More on the Amulet thing, and yes, I think it's not great. I think you're mostly racing, but they're a little bit more consistent at killing you before you kill them. And obviously, if you lose a Dyro, I think you're just a dog in the match. I actually did not play against any Amulet. Maybe I misremembered. Oh, that was last week I played against Amulet. That's what happened. I beat my second Boros Energy opponent because they walked all of their creatures into Pyroclasm in game 2. And I think, like, if you don't get flaged, Pyroclasm is probably sufficient to win you a lot of games versus them because it's going to be like a 5-for-1 or 6-for-1 or whatever, like, just a huge blowout. from the Boros side, I think I would be mindful of Pyroclasm from this deck because I think it's one of the few ways you can lose to the Prowess deck if you're not careful. So that's on both ends. ELdrazi Ramp. In my mind, I think Prowess should basically always beat ELdrazi Ramp if you're careful. I lost game 1 because my opponent had exactly enough types for Emrakul 13 on a critical turn. But this, like, I cut 2 of my consigns, but I also still just felt favored in the matchup. You know, I think the combination of really fast clock plus being able to play around Kozilek's return very easily because it's going to be super obvious when they have it. They're going to leave up 2 in a red. Both of those things are really good for you. Mutagenic Growth is really an all-star in that regard. So I think the ELdrazi Ramp matchup is very good. Affinity, I think the card that matters from them the most is actually Shadow Spear. And I don't think most of their other cards really matter very much. So, just an interesting thing to think about. So yeah, Shadow Spear is enemy number 1. That's the thing you want to remove at all costs, because I think if they hit you with like a Shadow Spear can near the game, just and on the spot, obviously, like it's going to be too hard for you to deal enough damage to them. And also, like, because it's on Cannoneer, the Ward 4, I think, makes it virtually impossible to remove that creature. Domain Zoo, I don't know. This matchup, I couldn't really figure out what was supposed to happen in this matchup, and I just beat them in 2 games, so I don't know. I think Leyline Binding is their best card because it gets around all of your, like, mutagenic growths or whatever. But this is also a matchup where if they don't deploy early threats, I think just plotting Psychic Frog, plotting Silkshot Show Off is very, very powerful and stresses their mana a lot. I think that's just a play pattern that's going to be very common, even in Standard as well, probably Pioneer as well. Just the Silkshot Show Off plot is super valuable on later turns where you can just really, really overload their mana and just get in like huge hits. That's actually what happened in the matchup versus Frog round 1 of that RCQ, which is they like very obviously had counterspell, so I just plotted 2 slick shots in a row, and they couldn't really do anything. They couldn't like deploy their thing. They were just unable to make forward progress because the plot mechanic really abuses them. So, like, I think there's a lot that is really good about this deck. Your spells basically all cost 0, 1, or 2. You have the ability to kill really quickly, but not faster than Amulet on average, sadly. You know, just a bunch of good things. Second day I played against Sultai Oculus. Their deck had, like, Thought Scour on Earth, probably Grist, and Psychic Frog, you know, usual suspects. I think this matchup is basically the same as Dimir Frog, except it might be even better for you. I think they just have less interactive elements for your stuff. I think the most likely way to lose to the Dimir deck is an unanswered Frog, like, really just pummeling you while they kill all of your stuff. But, oh, the other way you can lose is, like, a big Murktide, which is why I wanted to play sideboard Chain to the Rocks. Boros Energy, I just lost, like, 2 close post-board games, like, mostly to Flage. I won game 1 because of mutagenic growth saving my creature from a Flage, I think. So, you know. Yeah, it's very entirely about their turn 2 Frog. I have an Ending and 2 Chain to the Rocks on my sideboard. I guess conceivably I could Unholy Heat it as well. I think you probably can't win many games when the Frog actually starts hitting you. Like, because they're just going to kill all of your stuff and you're probably going to just be in the dirt. But that actually never happened to me. Instead, they just had their hands full of Counterspell, and, like, Counterspell is such an awful card versus deck. It's, like, really, really laughable. Like, they can basically never engineer a trade of Counterspell for your expensive things. You can win with Cori for start. Oh, yeah, Cori. That's one of the better matchups for Cori as well. It's hard to overstate how good Cori is. It's, like, a pretty broken card. I guess it's, like, technically seeing Legacy play. Storm Chasers better than the other. Yes, I leveled it up twice to get Expressive Iteration back. It also triggers your other prowess creatures, which is the other reason I wanted to play it over Soulscar Mage. Because what actually happens in this deck is you want like an even split of creatures and non-creature spells in most of your hands. And by having two of your creatures actually be non-creature spells, it actually makes it a little bit more balanced in that regard. Um, you get extra prowess triggers, you get extra DRC triggers because of the Stormchaser's talent being that instead of Soulscar Mage. I played Soulscar Mage in the past. It's exactly fine. It's not really fantastic, but I think Stormchaser's talent is just a better card, generally speaking. One other card that's actually kind of annoying if it ever gets to stick versus you is actually Orcish Bowmasters, because a lot of your cards do draw cards. Fortunately, you are a 4 Lava Dart deck, so I don't think the Bowmasters should ever really live very long versus you. You know? Like, I played a game versus the Orzhov deck where they had two Bowmasters out and we were kind of just staring at each other. And then eventually I drew a Lava Dart, cleared all of the Bowmasters, cracked all my baubles, and, like, eventually was able to, generate enough stuff to actually win. I don't know how the Orzhov mid-range matchup should actually play out. It's kind of confusing to me. Like, Solitude is very good if you decide to go all in, but I feel like you just don't actually have to go all in versus them very often. I think you can just kill their stuff and cast iterations and, maybe level your talent to get iteration back, etc., etc., and it seems kind of fine to me. Oh, the round 7 opponent was also Frog, and he just didn't want to play the matchup. Like, Lava Dirt. Well, I mean, Overlord of the Belmerk is kind of big. I don't want Canopy lands because I'm a 4 Lava Dart deck. I want to be able to sacrifice my lands to Lava Dart. Because basically, virtually all of the games I won with Slickshot were because I could flashback Lava Dart all of my Lava Darts. And I don't know, I guess I'll tab back to the deck. Literally every single land in my deck is a mountain. And I think that's just the way I want to play it. I can't really imagine ever really wanting Fiery Islet. You could cut a Steam Vents for a Fiery Islet. Someone did that yesterday at the RCQ. It's like probably fine, but I just value the ability to flashback all of my Lava Darts and generate, the lethal kills. So, actually on Saturday, I played 4 Slickshot, 4 Cori, 3 Growth, but I kind of just came around to the idea that this deck has too many 2-minute spells, and I want to cut one. And I think the worst one is actually Slickshot, despite the fact that it actually does generate a lot of your broken kills versus other combo decks. Like, Slickshot is your best card versus linears, essentially. Cori-Steel Cutter is basically your best card versus fair decks, generally speaking, with some exceptions. Like, this is not great versus Wrath of the Skies, but if you're playing against a Wrath of the Skies deck, like, you can probably sandbag it to cast and cast another spell post their Wrath of the Skies. Slickshot is the worst one because usually the second's bad. Yeah, the second one's bad unless if they're very clearly holding up counterspell and you just plot a bunch of them in a row and, like, then it's actually quite good. But in general, I agree it's not fantastic. Whereas drawing multiple cutters, it kind of just gets out of hand very quickly. Like, this card is... I don't want to exaggerate. Probably the best way of putting it is this is, like, power crept, Young Pyromancer. That's not really quite right either. Because it is gated on 1 per turn. Remember, it can trigger on your opponent's turn. So, like, something that is pretty common to do is, like, cast Steel Cutter, like, cast something on your turn, trigger it. On their turn, cast a removal spell, flashback off a dart, kill something of theirs, and get another token. You can do that. Be on the lookout for those lines. It is actually the difference between winning or losing this deck to get another prowess token, because prowess tokens really do scale very scale really quickly. It's my same mentor that, well, I mean, technically you're gated, but I don't think the gating actually matters very much. Like, it is sufficiently good, I think. I talked to Ryan Overturf earlier, and he doesn't like Expressive Iteration that much, but I think that's, like, kind of crazy not to play the full 4 because your deck is so good at using all of the resources. I play 19 lands, so I'm more likely to have my 3rd land drop. Like, you have zeros. There are 8 zeros that are pretty good with iteration, and it like kind of just fuels you to get 2 more spells like pretty easily for the Cori-Steel Cutter. I've also like thought about the idea of playing Murktide Regent somewhere. But I decided against it. I don't think it's good enough. I just want Change of the Rocks to kill their big stuff. So basically, in matchups where they have like a lot of removal for your stuff that's not damage based, like think like all fatal pushes, you can very easily just cut all of your mutagenic growths inside in like the Change of the Rocks prismatic ending and probably like Unholy Heat save versus like a frog deck. You know. Blue, well, I mean 15 of my 19 lands tap for blue, right? I mean like technically that's kind of lying. Yes, I went an RCQ, then I went 4 and 2 in another RCQ with this deck. So the total number of matches played was I won 6 matches on day 1 with 1 loss. So it was 6-1 and 1 plus 4 and 2. So it was 10-3 and 1. Which is like not an enormous sample size, but I've also played a lot of Prowess in the past, so I think I have a good idea of how like what the strengths and weaknesses of the deck are, and really how I want to approach matchups. Two blue on 1 card. Oh, I see, because you might like preordain into it. I see. Yeah, and also there's always the chance that you like surveil way too many steam vents, but you know, that's why technically you could play 1 Sacred Foundry for all the white cards, but it gets kind of dicey if you surveil it away like early on in the game and then you cut off all of your white. So I think if you want to play a 3-color Prowess deck, you have to play 2 of that Shockland. So like suppose you want to play Temur, which I've done in the past. I've played 2 Stomping Ground and like almost the exact same mana base. It was 2 Stomping Ground, these 5, and a bunch of fetch lands. Am I convinced why is it? No. In fact, I was going to get to that. There are strengths to not playing white. I think if you cut white, the real issue is you have a hard time dealing with Murktide Regent, which, take it or leave it. You can go that way if you want. Prismatic Ending is technically a clean answer to Flage, but so is Unholy Heat. Although if you heat it, they might just escape it again versus you. Yes, I do actually like the chained Unholy Heat split. Let me explain why real quick. There's an issue that a lot of people actually like to side in disenchants versus you. So it's actually a little bit better to leverage splitting the removal so disenchant's not always live against you. Of course, so like if you have 2 Chain of Rocks and 2 Heat in your deck, it'll be live often enough. But I think I would rather they like disenchant my Cori-Steel Cutter than like a Chain of Rocks that has like their Murktide Regent or Territorial Kavu or whatever. You know? That is the reason I have Heat and Chain of the Rock split. A lot of the sideboards on Mitgo, I notice, either play all Chain of the Rocks or all Unholy Heat. But I think like if you play Jeskai, you can just simply split them, gain the flexibility of being able to avoid one of those bad case scenarios by just having diversified removal, whereas they like mostly do the same thing. Got turn 3'd by this deck the other day. Yeah, I don't play Violent Urge, but this deck can still kill on turn 3 pretty easily, you know. It's like not difficult to imagine that you go turn 2 plot Slipshot, turn 3 cast Slipshot, cast Preordain, cast Bobble, cast Mutagenic Growth, Flashback Lava Dart, or something like that. It's very easy to generate lethal kills in this deck. It's just that Amulet, I think, is better at killing you on 3 than your... Like, if Amulet wins the die roll versus you, I think you basically lose game 1. And then, like, you're going to have to win game 3 on the draw, and that's pretty hard. And I found out, like, I was playing Blood Moon for Amulet, but the problem is, like, it's not actually fast enough a lot of the time. Like, you need, like, a bridge card to actually, like, knock them out with Blood Moon. Because a lot of the time, like, if you just, like, rely on Blood Moon, I think, like, there's a good chance that they'll either have Boseiju by the time you like are able to land it, or they kill you, or they put Primeval Titan into play even before you can cast a button. Your Amulet Gaming lately has been basically lose to Belcher and beat everything else. I was told that Amulet is not the fantastic versus Frogtide. Four Consigns are best game versus Amulet? Interesting. I did cut Consigns because I thought my ELdrazi matchup was good. But if you think that's the way to go versus Amulet to bridge to a Blood Moon, maybe I'll try that again. I like having Spell Pierce though for like stormy-ish things, you know, in that area. I played against Manu Blue ELdrazi taking turns, and Spell Pierce was fantastic in that matchup. Ammo was bad versus Frog. Okay, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot like art. It's so weird. Like both of the RCQs I played, there was a ton of Amulet, or there's a reasonable amount of Amulet and a ton of Frog. And I think Prowess is pretty good versus Frog and kind of terrible versus Amulet, obviously. So, how often do I go to level 2 on talent? In 14 matches I played, I leveled it twice. And it was basically versus a Frog deck, picking up iteration both times, and like they kind of just died. I mean, I can also play Amulet. I have no I have no issue playing Amulet if I think I can really just get an edge in those mirrors, but the Amulet mirrors are also pretty unpleasant. The Prowess mirrors are also pretty bad now, I think now. Um just being on the play with Steel Cutter is so like I don't know. It's just so hard to come back from being on the draw unless if your hand's just all removal versus them, especially in game one. I don't know how to put it best. Just the on the draw games and the prowess mirrors are pretty horrendous. I don't think it's fixable either. I think it's just like some mirror matches suck and you just kind of accept it. Bitter Blossom 2025. Yeah, it kills you a lot more quickly though is the real issue. Like if both of you have Bitter Blossom, at least you can just start blocking their tokens with yours. But like it's you can't really block their Cori-Steel Cutter token with yours because it just doesn't work out, right? So it's not even really like it's not even like a Bitter Blossom mirror. It's more like I don't even know a good way of putting it. You kind of just get killed, you know. And like the Steel Cutter thing is it's so good in standard as well. So just all those things it's kind of crazy to think about. Um anyways, I think I was gonna write or like I guess go to Flexslot and sort of work on a quick sideboard guide if people wanted to check it out for free. I don't think there's a lot of value in charging money for these things, especially since I'm not going to do that much work on it. I'm just going to give my quick thoughts on things. This is also the build I think I would play going forward, but maybe you do want to make room for 2 more consigns. And also, I think there is merit to Izzet over Jeskai. I don't think there's much merit to Teamer anymore. I don't think you need Questing Druid when you just have infinite good 2s now. So, I think I would play Jeskai or Izzet, and that is just a function of what exactly you want your sideboard to look like. Oh, there is technically one more version of this deck that is Jeskai and has 4 Prismatic Ending in the main deck. And I don't really like that very much because I think like I don't think trying to kill all of their stuff is really what you need to do with this deck. I think just trying to kill them is what you actually need to do most of the time. So that's my thoughts on that. It is like listed as prowess and it shares a lot of the cards, but it really plays out quite differently to just have 4 endings in your deck and no like they have like a random Flage in their deck too. Oh, I also played Flage and it was kind of terrible, so that's why I ended up cutting it. Anyways, how do I use this now? Alright, add matchup. We'll just go one by one. What is the most played deck on Mitgo in Modern? Is Boros Energy. Okay. How do I use this? dense view. Okay, nice. Boros Energy. Verse them. Grixis. What other black cards would you want to play? Dreadmaul's Hire is interesting. My suspicion is not good enough, but it's not like a 0. The vibes are just that the rest of the box is just more generically good. I could see that. I don't really know. I also thought about Stony Silence, but I think that card is actually not where you want to be. Anyways, what was I doing versus Boros? So, one of the issues in this matchup is your ground creatures get bricked very quickly. So, I think versus Boros, I was actually cutting some number of Swift Spheres, if that makes sense. Especially on the draw. I think you need one. I think I want to play one Meltdown nowadays, but, you know. So I want those. I don't actually... I'm not sure if you actually want to change the rocks versus Boros. But I think basically you want most of your removal, but the chain of the rocks is a little bit more iffy. And you want your soul guides. And Pyroclasm is actually really, really good in the non-Phage games. So theoretically, I think if you have all of the removal and all of the soul guides, you can theoretically contain their Phages with Soul Guide Lantern. And I don't think you don't really need the Swift Spears as a part of that plan. Storm Chaser's talent, picking up removal, I think is relevant. Mutagenic Growth saving your creatures can be relevant, but the question is if you even really want to be like a combo deck for some. The answer is you might not want to be. So I'm not sure. Like, theoretically, you could, like, cut a show off in 4 Mutagenic Growths and the 2 Swift Spears and be, like, kind of a weird Jeskai mid-range deck. I don't know if that sounds good. Maybe it's just, like, kind of bad to do that. But it doesn't sound implausible to me. Okay. So what if I do that? I didn't actually try this, but it actually sounds sort of reasonable. Game 1, I think you always have to, like, try to set up Slickshot plus Mutagenic Growth to kill them. There isn't a matchup where we aren't the beatdown. Well, Mirrors on the draw, you're not really the beatdown, but that's, like, I guess neither here nor there. I also think sometimes you have a weird amount of inevitability in matchups that people don't realize because your deck can actually, like... what's the best way of putting it? You can, like, carve out a moment where you can kill someone with Slick Shot if they, like, ever tap out. So you can generate inevitability by, like, plotting Slick Shots and, like, gaining time that way to do other stuff and set up shop. I guess that's, like, still being the beatdown, but it's sort of like a weird, sort of Splinter Twin-esque sort of beatdown, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Should you play this deck at Boa Hero or RCQ this Saturday? I think it's pretty good. I think if you like this type of deck, it's certainly, like, pretty strong. I think the Amulet matchup is not fantastic, but if you're okay with that, that's fine. Anyways, Boros Energy, you really just want to kill them with Slick Shot in Game 1. Game 2, just, like, try to set up Pyroclasm for their wide board. And you can Soul Guide a Flage, hopefully, or, like, Heat into Soul Guide, or, like, Prismatic King. I kind of decided I didn't want Change of the Rocks. The other reason is, like, a lot of people like to side in Wrath of the Skies versus you, and Change of the Rocks, like, really is not good in that exchange, so... Alright, ELdrazi Ramp. What was I doing here? Your Murktide are pretty good to protect your creatures in this. Oh, this is a matchup where I just cut all my Steel Cutters because I don't think they do anything. I don't think they actually matter versus ELdrazi Ramp. That was my theory. So I had these two, all of these in. I think... Wait, where did the wear tear go? Oh, god damn it. I know what happened. Often the importer does not like split cards. So there we go. This is... I think I had wear tear in because their red mana is not always guaranteed. And hitting Utopia Sprawl like buys a lot of turns. And I think I had I think I probably had one Spell Pierce or some. This is obviously a matchup where if you had more consigns, that's even better and better for you. But really, the key to this matchup is just don't let them Kozilek's return you, and you will probably win most games. And it's pretty easy to not get Kozilek's return. Lava Dart's good at that. Mutagenic Growth's good at that. This is a matchup where I don't like just... I don't really... I mean, I guess in most matchups I just plot Slickshot Show Off pretty aggressively and just wait for a turn where I can really like just lethal them with it. But here it applies as well because of the Kozilek's return thing. Like, unless if I have a Mutagenic Growth in my hand, then I might do it. But the other thing is they can Kozilek's Commander Slickshot without like any fear if you just do it into 4 open mana. So like plotting it is kind of good to do pretty often. Just in most matchups, you should probably plot Slickshot Show Off most of the time. Let's see. Dimir Frog. How do I add a matchup? Oh, there we go. How do I... Can I drag it over? How do I drag it over? Alright, whatever. I guess it'll just be like kind of inverted order of popularity, but... Again, don't take this as like gospel. This is just sort of a guide, not 100%. You should always do this. I like cutting all the Mutagenic Growths. I actually like keeping Slick Shots because it's your best counterplay to them like holding up Counterspell is to just plot a Slick Shot and overload them on mana later. Alright, Chain of the Rocks is very good. This is good. This is good. The Heats are fine. I don't really like Spell Pierce. I don't want to play that type of game. I think you can shave one Lava Dart because it doesn't do very much. But in general, I generally do not sideboard Lava Dart out very much because Lava Dart generates a lot of your explosive wins because it's basically a 0 mana deal however much damage, similar to Mutagenic Growth. Although, I guess versus fair decks, it's a lot easier to cut Mutagenic Growth, really. Like, basically, Mutagenic Growth exists to let you kill faster, and if you don't really need to do that, then you can end up cutting it. If you do decide you need to do that, don't cut the card. Anyways, the key to the Murktide matchup is don't really let them hit you with Frog. Then you're probably going to be fine. The other way you can lose is 2 Giant Murktide, but sometimes you can trade like 2 burn spells for a Murktide as well, you know. Or you can force them to block with their Murktide versus your Slickshot, you know. That's fine to do. Like, just make like a 7-power Slickshot. They can't really just take 7 on the chin versus you, and they'll basically always block. Let's see. Ruby Storm. Haven't played the matchup. Suspect whoever wins the die roll is going to win the match. Which sounds stupid, but like, I don't know. This is exactly what you signed up for. I think in the Ruby Storm matchup, your counter spells and answers to their reducers are good, and everything else doesn't matter. So I basically just want all my answers to their cost reducers. Except for Meltdown. Meltdown is just too bad. But it would probably be like this. This is a matchup where I think I don't know if this sounds crazy. I might actually shave iteration in this matchup plus some number of Steel Cutters. So it might be like -4 iteration, -2, or -4 Steel Cutter, -2 iteration. Is that unhinged? Might be a slightly unhinged. Does anyone have thoughts if this is unhinged or hinged to do this? It's unglued. Alright. Well, I think you should like cut some number of 2-drop things. You shouldn't cut Slickshot Show Off because that produces all of your fast kills, which you obviously want versus Storm deck. Like, another good way of thinking about this is the Prowess deck is like halfway in between Storm and Burn is a really good way to do that. And you can like move the dials, you can play differently, but basically you're playing like a matchup where you want to go as quickly as possible. You would expect Cutter greater than inertia since, well, kind of one of my issues is I'm boarding in all of these answers to their reducers, and I kind of want to find them, and like or find my spell pierces. So I kind of just want to do that rather than you know, tapping out for Cutter and like not being able to kill their thing on their turn. I don't know. Like my gut tells me I want to leave in 2 iteration for Cutter, but I guess you could try it the other way, you know. Alright. That's Ruby Storm. Alright, Amulet Titan. So this is a matchup where only one thing matters, which is trying to kill them as quickly as possible. The Silk Shots are really good. I don't think Cori-Steel matters very much versus them either, so I want to cut those. And I want to use iteration to dig for killing, like, ways of killing them fast. But I don't know. Maybe it's just unhinged to cut all of your cutters in this matchup, but you could like try to Unholy Heat Primeval Titan. I don't know if you necessarily want to do that or if it's actually good to do that. If you wanted to have those in, I'm not sure I would cut. I don't think you want to cut any of your creatures, and I don't think you want to cut your Mutagenic Growths. I guess you could cut like a Lava Dart, but the problem is Lava Dart is like one of the ways you kill quickly because it generates a lot of free damage out of nowhere. Heat is mostly fake. See, that's what I thought. I'm glad you agree with me. By the way, all right, one sec. I guess I'll mess it. Yeah, the problem is I think Titans are just mostly like if you let them get a Titan trigger, it's so bad. Anyway, shout out to Prosperous Tiger for doing well at MXP. What is it? Was it Oakland? Wait. Where is it? When was it? 2023. Third place at Santa Clara. Okay, cool. Sorry, I for some reason I thought Oakland. I don't know. I guess Santa Clara and Oakland in my mind are very close. So, all right. But Haven re-inspired me to start learning the deck again, and then like fucking Dom and I got into a puzzle where I couldn't figure out what we were supposed to do, and neither could he. And then next day he said like, "Oh, I spent an hour and figured out what you should actually do." I'm just like, "Great." There was no way I was gonna get that in a real like time frame. Like the problem is, I think if an optimal line exists with Amulet, but you can't find it within like 2 or 3 minutes in game, it's mostly fake. Um, I guess that's a free rant about Amulet Titan, but yeah, just I don't know, like trying to unholy heat their Titan and then like deal with the rest of the stuff, unless if you have them literally dead next turn, is mostly fake, I think. And I think the problem is if you draw unholy heat instead of something else, like you're not very likely to be able to kill them on the next turn because you've spent a card like drawing a removal spell for their Titan. What if you learn all of the amulet lines? Well, not even Dom saw it on the fly. Like, so it's, I don't know. It feels fake. Anyways, I guess this is what I would do. You could also consider Spell Pierce as well. Probably better on the play if you Spell Pierce an amulet or the Splunking that buys a bunch of time. But I think sometimes it's hard to leave up the mana for that specific thing. But maybe you should just have it and cut like, I don't know. What would I side out if I wanted to have Spell Pierce in my deck? Not creatures, not iterations. Actually, maybe it is like 2 iterations in this matchup again. Maybe that's actually the secret sauce. What if I just have all of them in, actually, Haven? What do you think of that? What if I did this instead? Just cut 2 iterations for Steel Cutters. I guess it could also be the other way around. You could cut 4 iteration 2 Steel Cutter if you really think the threat of Cutter matters. I just don't think this card matters in this matchup. And yeah, so like Pending's not the best. Wereter is definitely good because it can always tag the Splunking or the Amulet on like the critical turn. Um, yeah, I don't know. I would probably try something like this. Yeah, you're definitely vulnerable to overboarding. All right. I guess like I'll cover the is it prowess mirror. Honestly, I do not find those mirrors very enjoyable because I think the play draw dynamic is very very bad for you. Like oh sorry, it's not very bad for you, but it's kind of just coin flippy again. You know, whoever's on the play is a massive favorite to win. The cards that are good in this matchup are just all of the removal spells. Even Chain to the Rocks, I think, is good. Like, yeah, it's like not the most reliable. Um, Noteworthy, I do not like Pyroclasm and the Prowess Mirrors because I think it's very, very easy for your opponent to just not like. What's the best way of putting it? It's very easy for them to just not get gotten by it. Most mirrors are play draw dependent. That might just be true given how cards are designed nowadays. Actually, yeah. What was I cutting? I was shaving like a bunch of things around the edges. Oh, this is a matchup where I was actually cutting talent, which might sound weird, but I think the games are really fast. And I think the body on talent is the one that's most vulnerable to Lava Dart, so I don't want to do that. DRC is too good to cut, so I don't cut that one. I was cutting like 2 of these. I think I was just like shaving around the edges. You don't want to cut this. You don't really want to cut mutagenic growth. I think maybe I was shaving 2 Swift Spears because they're just kind of bad. I mean, yeah, that makes you worse at killing your opponent, but you're gaining 4 removal spells. It's just possible you don't want Chain to the Rocks, actually, but I think you do. But maybe that's crazy. Maybe it's like actually... Pending is better than Chain to the Rocks, actually. Because it can also tag the Cori-Steel Cutter if you want it to. But this matchup, win the die roll. If you're on the draw, just try to prioritize killing their stuff instead of trying to like develop your own stuff. Because I think a lot of the time, if you try to develop your own stuff, you're just gonna lose the race like pretty easily. Whereas like if you try to kill their stuff and you have like an iteration or something to reload, that probably works out a lot better for you on average. Let's see. I think I want to cover the Domain Zoo matchup because there's a lot of Domain Zoo around here. Like, I'm not sure why. I don't know what good matchups Domain Zoo has anymore. It's kind of hard for me to figure out because I just really don't like that deck. I don't know. That's like my personal bias showing, obviously, but I think the deck is just like kind of whatever. Domain Zoo. What was I doing? I had my Wear Terran. The easiest way for you to lose to Domain Zoo is the Leyline Scion thing, I think. And I think you win most of the other time, even versus like they're like not a very good Flage deck actually. Like Boros Energy is a much better Flage deck than they are. You probably want Chain to the Rocks even though it's vulnerable to Leyline Binding. It's just because like their Kavus and things are just so big. If you don't have answers for them, it's like kind of awkward. So I would want to have these 6 in. I think your Storm Chaser talents don't matter very much. Cori-Steel Cutter is pretty good versus them. I would cut like 2 mutagenic growths probably. Yeah, I guess that's probably how it is. I don't know. The deck just seems bad to me. Lava Dart's also not fantastic versus them. If they leave in a lot of Ragavans, I would leave in more darts, but I would just shave darts versus them because I think it's not that easy to kill them with Lava Dart shenanigans in this matchup because the deck is actually just a lot of removal. So I think I would do this. You are going to play longer versus them, and yes, I'm cutting off my ability to level up talent, but I don't think you really have like you're not always going to have enough mana to just level it up and like pick up your iteration. Like you actually do have to like I don't want to play like 20 turns versus them. I just want to play enough turns to kill their big thing and then like cast an iteration and like try to kill them, I think, generally speaking. So that's what I have for now. I'll take questions now if people have any for a few minutes. Hopefully this was helpful. I am planning on posting it to YouTube in a day or two. So. Any questions? How do I feel about the Affinity matchup for us? Oh, I didn't mention that. I think their best card is Shadow Spear. If they hit you with Shadow Spear, you probably lose. If they don't, you probably win. You can also you can improve the matchup if you play more Meltdowns. I did play against it once and I won. It is unclear to me what should happen on average because I haven't played a large number of matches versus it. I hope that is a satisfactory answer. Yeah, Silkshot is the best card versus them. I agree with that. Honestly, like, I thought about playing one Monstrous Rage, honestly, like unironically, but I didn't do it. Yeah, I'm going to Minneapolis on Friday after work. Like, I'm taking my luggage to my office and then going to the airport from my office because the office is pretty close to Reagan Airport. But we were discussing Modern Prowess, which I played two RCQs, made the finals in one of them, which got me an invite, and went 4-2 in the other one. So a reasonable weekend for the deck, and I don't know, I kind of just enjoy playing this style of deck. Hopefully, I will play the same style of deck in Minneapolis as well because that deck has been doing pretty well. Any other questions? Do I miss the fourth switch card? That is the last card I cut. My issue was I just drew so many hands. So to clarify, in both of the tournaments I played last weekend, I played the full 8 of those cards in my 75, and I just felt like the 2-drops did clog my hand a little bit too often, so I cut one of them. You could cut a Cori-Steel Cutter, I guess, as well, but I think like you need some. Whichever one you cut is probably a nod to what you expect to play against. If you expect to play against more combo-y stuff, you should play 4 show-offs. If you expect to play against more fair stuff, you should play 4 steel cutters. But I think between the 4 iteration, 4 steel cutter, and 4 show-offs, if you play the full 12 of those things, you just lead to too many hands where you just, like, your hand's kind of clunked up. And this is why I have the extra 1-drop, like, creatures in the Storm Chaser's talents, you know? Like, I just want to, like, start doing things on 1 if possible. And then use my cantrips to gas back up later. That's how I want to play the game with this deck, you know? But yes, like, I just found that 8 is too many. Like, 8 proactive 2-drops is too many. Iteration is not even a 2-drop, really. Like, yes, you can cast it on 2, but you're like a large portion of the time if you cast on 2, you're gonna not hit one of the zeros you actually want. Like the best 0 to hit on turn 2 is Mishra's Bauble, but you only have 4 of those. Like of course you could hit Mutagenic Growth and cast on like your Swiftsphere or Otter or DRC, but like I really don't want to play iteration that way. I really want to wait until my 3rd land. Incidentally, that's why I play 19 lands. Most people play 17 to 18, and I just have an extra land compared to most people. I have 10 fetch lands. I have the Thundering Falls. I have 4 Steam Vents. I have 2 Sacred Foundry and 2 Mountains. So I have 10 fetches, 9 fetchables. Just because I want to have, like, sufficient mana to have my iteration and switch shots and things on time. Alright. Any other questions? Yeah, no problem. Hopefully other people appreciated this stuff. I haven't been streaming as much recently because like a 1 hour commute one way is just too much. I just don't have as much energy at the moment. Like it was a lot better when I was just working from home every day, pretty much. So my streams are gonna be a lot less frequent, unfortunately, but that's just how it is now, sadly. Rough Tumble versus Pyroclasm. You can play Rough Tumble. It's better with Slipshot Show Off, definitely. Is there a case where Pyroclasm would be better? It's like fairy tokens from like Bitter Blossom or something like that. I don't know. You could play 1 Rough Tumble, 1 Pyroclasm as well to hedge. One really nice thing is Pyroclasm is not likely to kill most of your creatures. Monster Subsphere itself is not vulnerable to it. The Storm Chaser's talent token will probably die to it. Slickshot Show Off obviously does die to it without something. DRC is likely to be online by the time you cast Pyroclasm. So Power Custom's like pretty good. Maybe it is better to play Rough Tumble. I hadn't actually. I've played a bunch of Rough Tumble in the past, but it's been a while, you know. So maybe you should actually play Rough Tumble. All right. I think if that's the last question, that's gonna about wrap it up for me. I'll probably be back on Wednesday to actually play some Magic Online during the day because I have the day off, but I'm not sure yet. Uh, Thanks everyone being here. If you appreciate the stream, hit that follow button. What the fuck's? All right, linked. Hit that follow button. That's free to do. It does help support the stream. If you really enjoyed the creation and discussion of the sideboard guide, consider using an Amazon Prime sub. You get one free one per month. At least use it somewhere if you don't use it here. All right. I'm going to raid Caleb on the way out. Say hi to Caleb for me. And I'll be back Wednesday probably.